behind the scenes with future country rock blues kings and queens. Discover them first with Palm Mash TV. Palm Mash TV.
Well, hello there. It's Paul Mash TV time again. Thank you so much for joining us. We got another great interview coming up for you in just a moment. But before we begin, don't forget we have that subscribe button and the bell button down there. And anytime you click those, you'll be notified of the next episode whenever it becomes available to you. And you can leave a comment on the comment section, of course. We'd love to hear from you there. And remember, we're on Facebook, facebook.com/Paul Mash TV. And feel free to follow us there, comment on the things you see, even send us an inbox, and we'll get back to you. And of course, if you want to email us, you can. It's paulmashtv, all one word, at gmail.com. And if you're a band or solo artist who wants to be on the show, send us an email and we'll show you how to be on the show. And also, if you're just a fan, just send us an email and we'll get back to you. And all this is going to be recapped at the closing credits at the end of the show, so stay tuned for that. From Boise, Idaho today, we have Michael F. Rose, a very awesome artist, and I think you're going to agree. And we'll get to that interview in a second because it starts right now. Okay, here we are with the interview as promised, and with us from Boise, Idaho today, we have Michael F. Rose. Thanks for joining us, Michael.
Thanks for having me, Paul. How's it going? Paul and I were having a really good conversation. We're happy everybody can jump in on the rest of it.
Yeah.
I almost forgot to start the interview.
Yeah, it's a real good conversation here, and hopefully we'll have a good one during the interview too, so we'll see what happens there.
I'll do my best.
How did it all begin for you as far as being an artist? I mean, everyone has their own story. I'm sure you always wanted to be an artist when you were a little kid, but tell us.
I was an artist when I was a little kid. It wasn't something that I wanted to be because I wasn't really aware of what I was. I was just this creative little dude who used to go into his grandpa's bedroom and this guitar right here, as a matter of fact, that's my grandfather's old Yamaha, and he fixed washers and dryers for a living. So he would leave to go do a service call, and I would sneak in the bedroom and slide that guitar in the case out, and I'd pull it out and I'd start picking on it. And back then it was a little bit different. You had different disciplinary alternatives, right? It was the belt or the switch, right? There wasn't a lot of options. And I'm not saying I agree with those because I've had and raised on and off 9 kids, but 5 primarily, and I have grandbabies, and I never smacked them once. I just found better ways. I think they discovered that me lecturing them for an hour and a half was far more painful than any beating, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that if I got caught with this guitar, there's going to be hell to pay. But the excitement of that and going in there and picking it and learning how to play, and I'd sneak into my Uncle John's room and I'd listen to Johnny Cash and I'd listen to ELO and I'd listen to the Rolling Stones. He just had this crazy dichotomy of music interests that he liked. And Elton John, Captain Fantastic, and the Brown Dirt Cowboy. I remember sneaking and just kind of saturating myself with all this music. And then I would sneak into the room and Grandpa was gone, try to figure it out on the guitar. Well, one day I heard a creak on the floorboards behind me, and he was standing there leaning on the door jamb. Mm-hmm. And I looked back and I thought, oh no, this is it, Paul. This is the end. And he looked at me and he goes, well, I'll tell you what, you're better at playing that damn thing than I am. You can have it. And he walked away. Mm. And from that day on, it was me and that guitar just trying to figure it out. And then I found a Dan Fogelberg cassette and tried to figure out how he was not only making those beautiful guitar sounds, but how he was composing these pieces that were just like beyond what I could even comprehend ever doing. I'm not saying that I have, and then I ran into this band called The Police, and I discovered this artist named Sting. And next thing you know, my musical influences were so great that my bar of what I had to achieve was so high. I really thought that it was just, I didn't know how I'd ever get there. And like I said, I'm not saying I have, but that was the measure by which, when I was writing a song, if it didn't lyrically stand up, it didn't make it. It didn't musically stand up. And that brings me to a whole different department, because I've always been really super blessed at surrounding myself with people who are better at doing what I'm trying to do than I am. I think you're a perfect example of that in this interview. But having Bobby Umphris, my bass player, Mark Hume on lead guitar, we now have a phenomenal drummer, Flip Perkins. We have somebody who works with us, but not as on a regular basis. Earl Hughes is one of the greatest pedal steel players in the world. Earl Hughes was Don Ho's pedal steel player for 30 years. And he's an older cat, man, but you wouldn't know it. He's 35 years old. He's just, he does not stop. So, and from Steve Fulton at Audio Lab Studio and all the people that support us as this has just really started to take off. I get to do the greatest job in the world. I get to be surrounded by amazing people. I get to write music and I get to sing. And I just can't think of a better way to, and it was just to finish, close the question as in regards to the artist thing. I've always wanted to be, you know, I think that as a kid, it wasn't in my consciousness, but as I got older, you know, raising kids, and I was a contractor for years. I was a contractor for 30 years. You know, and I'd pick up my guitar every once in a while and write a good song. And I had a friend who had a studio, a publishing house. I'd go down and I'd do a guitar vocal demo and we'd shop the song and it may or may not land somewhere. And so I spent a lot of years writing for other people. But it's really just been in the last few years since my youngest grew up and flew the nest, right? So I was like, you know what, this is my time to do this, because I saw what the industry did to families. I saw what it did to a lot of my friends with kids. So I really pumped the brakes on all that. And to answer your question in regards to Nashville, I was in Nashville 20 years ago and I had the whole pie sitting right in front of me. And I wasn't ready. It wasn't musically ready. Well, it probably was musically ready too. I mean, I could sing. It would have been a work in progress in Nashville. But at the time, I had a little wife and two babies in California, and they were turning off the electricity. And I got Chet Atkins' daughter and Marcel Dadi and Michael O'Dorn, who at the time was the president of the Chet Atkins Society. And I'm sitting there at the Bluebird Cafe with Marty Stewart and all these people looking at me going, if you stay, you're in the country club. And I couldn't stay. And I left. And you know what? I'm happy that I did, because I raised some amazing kids who are now my best friends. So I want to, and this is a happy ending story. And like we were talking about pre-interview, about when you do something that you love and you keep doing it, and it's a labor of love. If you don't stop, most people that are trying to do what you'll do, they'll stop, they'll quit. They'll, like we said, you get to 100, you're all excited. You get to 500, you're losing your mind. All of a sudden, you wake up and you're at 358, and you go, "Oh no, this isn't working." No, you just keep going. You just keep going. And I am actually, I'm not a prideful man, but I'm proud to be a part of the arts community, not just musically. You know, I think there's all kinds of different forms and expressions of amazing art, and I just think it's very cool. Actually, I'm very I have found a real peace in discovering who I really am, and I think that through your passion and through your love, you know, and dare I say, psilocybin helped. That might be an interview for a different day. But it really did, you know, having been a retired firefighter. I mean, I feel like I've lived a few lifetimes, and I also feel like I'm kind of ranting here, but I'll give the mic back to you, Paul.
Okay. No, that's all right. Yeah, and my next question was going to be your influences, but you already mentioned a few of those. Did you mention like Johnny Cash, Rolling Stones, Dane Fogelberg? Although they are pretty awesome artists in itself, and
Yeah.
I can see where you get your style from. Well, let me ask you this though. People might be watching this interview right now, and they may want to download your music on streaming formats or follow you on social media. If you want to tell everybody how to do that, you're welcome to.
Google Michael F. Rose or Michael F. Rose Music, Spotify, Michael F. Rose. But the best place to start, just go in your Google search engine or whatever you use and put in Michael F. Rose, and everything will open up. Reverb Nation, I think we were number one. And you know what? I don't really know about that. I want to take that comment back, not to delete it, but I was thinking about this whole Reverb Nation thing today, and I really appreciate what they're doing. But and I was only on it for a week, and I tested it, and I was doing this, I was sending this out, and I wanted to see if it was really going to be effective. Like my promoter, Caden.
Mm-hmm.
Caden Gordon, that he exemplifies effectiveness. So having through a dear friend of mine, Michael Body Band, Botte band,
Mm-hmm.
search them too. They're a great project. Really love Michael and everything he does. Um, I think that there are platforms out there that you can really spin your wheels on and waste a lot of time on.
Mm-hmm.
And I just discovered this too because I've been so focused on the music that we have this amazing album coming out. And all of a sudden, I'm looking and I go, I have 80 listeners. Actually, when I first got real serious about Spotify, Paul, I only had, I think, 21 listeners. And I thought to myself, okay, I've really got the cart ahead of the horse here. So if you really want to make a big jump fast, connect with people like Paul, connect with people like Caden Gordon. But first and foremost, make sure your product is quality. It's like, I mean, like studio quality. Right in front of me, I have a Persona Studio One Second Edition. I recorded everything I played on Silver City. If you'll see, you can hear Silver City on Spotify. You can hear Cinnamon Creek on Spotify. You can hear She Don't Want Me Drinking on Spotify. I did all that work here. I played everything, did it all myself.
Mm-hmm.
And and it works. And I think they're good tunes, thank God. But here's what I'm trying to explain is then listen to 57 Chevy.
Mm-hmm.
Then listen to Still America. Then listen to Nothing New Under the Sun. And then listen to Locked and Loaded Lonely when it comes out this Friday night at midnight. And you'll see the quality difference. Now, to most people, the average music listener, they might not be able to differentiate it. But the people like Caden, the people like Paul, people like me, other artists, other promoters, other record labels, they hear the difference. And if you want to do, you can do great demo work on a Persona Studio One too. I've done a lot of pre-production work. That's all I use this for now is if I get a song, I'll come in here and I'll record it. I'll play the parts and then I email it to the band and say, I'll see you Tuesday because our Tuesdays are where we build the songs and the set and do like what Mark Hume says is we do band shit. You know, like all the super cool stuff, you know, like when you're like, oh, what a great intro. That's not on the album. That's where we do all that fun stuff. Um, so yeah, and you know, younger artists, whatever your passion is, whatever your thing is, just don't quit because most everybody else will. And if you just keep doing it, I think the real success is in the fact that you're still doing it and that it pleases you and that you love it. Don't stare at the money. Don't stare. And I know we all need it. Don't get me wrong. It's not that it isn't important to a degree because you need it, right, to function in the system. But if you just keep your eyes on the prize, and the prize is your art,
Mm-hmm.
the money will be a byproduct of your faithfulness to that, to who you truly are. And I say this to myself too. I'm not above anybody or anything here. This is just something I've really got my head around in the last couple of years, Paul, is, you know, I had a lot of aspirations and dreams. I put a lot of stuff on hold, and now the floodgates are opening up. And it's very important to stay focused on what matters right now, because that's where the art lives. And my greater concern is if I start getting too broad in my focus, I have other people. I've got people like Paul and people like Caden and people like Steve Fulton, who I trust 100% in his co-production and his mixing and mastering of my album. I trust my guitar player Mark Hume and my bass player Bobby Umphris. I let these guys go. That you surround yourself with people who are really good at what they do, and you don't have to babysit souls. Everybody's an adult, everybody's a pro, and I really just get to be like the quirky, weird artist guy now. I don't have to pretend I'm anything else anymore, right? I don't
Yeah,
have to play a character.
yeah, that is true. So everybody go out there to those famous streaming formats, and I'm sure you'll find his music. I know he would love you for that. And in just a moment, we're going to be playing that music video. Some things are better left unsaid, I do believe is the name of the song.
Mhm.
Is it self-explanatory? Or does it go deeper than that? Tell us a little story about the song.
It's well, every song is me just being absolutely 100% open and honest about life and what I've gone through. It's my medicine, really. I think music is medicine for everyone, whether you play it or not. Uh, some things is a song about before I really knew who I was a like a people pleasing, plate spinning, codependent kind of guy who was just trying to keep everybody happy all the time. And the woman I was in a relationship at the time, and I was having some way out thoughts about how I could get out of the situation. And to be honest with you, I've never like honestly contemplated like jumping off a bridge.
Mhm.
And but those were some of the things I was so stressed at that time. I was thinking maybe that's the only thing I can do to stop this pain. And then I thought, nah, some things are I'm not gonna ever say that shit.
Mhm.
I can't say that out loud. And I think as men, we don't really have the opportunity to say a lot of things that we feel out loud without people looking at us like, well, what's that guy? Oh, his pussy's having feelings again. Oh boy, you know. But I'm gonna tell you, honestly, honest to God, guys, and girls too, just being open and honest about how you feel. If you're open and honest about how you feel and you're in a relationship with someone and they can't receive that and love you through you're probably with the wrong person.
Mhm.
You don't have to play a character. I played a character for years. I played the big, strong contractor guy, water off a duck's back. Nothing ever hurt me. And honestly, the psilocybin was a door that someone very close to me helped me open because of my PTSD. I had a hell of a childhood. I'm a retired firefighter, and I was dealing with some really serious PTSD issues my entire life. And when I look back at some things, I can see how that was also, it was just, everything was just crushing me. And I didn't have any way to express it other than through the music. So these little therapy sessions I would build were for me and for anybody else who ever felt that way. And I want to say this, if I can, Paul, is if you ever think about hurting yourself or anything like that, just listen. If you're feeling that way, there's a real good chance you don't even know who you are yet. Don't stop now. You're right. It's always darkest right before the dawn. And I'm telling you, honest to God, Michael F. Rose on Facebook. If you ever want to talk, message me, get a hold of Paul, somebody. But that is not the answer. The answer is figuring out what you love to do and doing it and getting excited about life again. Because I'm a perfect example of. I mean, and believe me, I'm an artist. It's a roller coaster, man. Really, it's not like we have a couple hit songs and now all of a sudden, like, oh, everything's great. I live a very loving. I adore my family, my friends. I'm a very kind man, but there's a lot of solitude in me. There's a lot of loneliness in me, even when I'm surrounded by other people. Um, my childhood development created. I don't know. I mean, we could do all that math. I'll save it for another time, but whatever it is and however you feel, you can get through it. And I think we do better if we get through it together. In my book, God is love, right? So if it's not of love, it's not of God. And whether you know it or not, there's people that love you. There's people that care about you that you haven't even met. It's like for me to say, I love you, Paul. You're doing a great thing, man. I can tell right now. I got a new brother named Paul. I love Paul. right? And don't joke and say, I love lamp. Don't nobody take it there, okay? I'm not talking about Anchorman. But I do, because we're all having this human experience, and it's so much better together.
Mm-hmm.
But look at how, and if I may, look at how the government and all these entities try to segregate us and slice us into pieces. So we're all pissed off at each other about some horseshit they create, our color, our religion, our music, our culture. This is, and I want to once and for all say this. See, we the people, that's all of us. That's not the right-wing conservatives or the left-wing liberals or the Democrats or the Republicans or those who stand right on. It's all of us, and it's everybody who is not subject to a tyrannical government who's trying to not only, I won't go as far as to say kill us all, but they kind of want to get rid of our asses. We're a nuisance to them. So, but just think how strong we are together. It was Lincoln that said it, right? A house divided cannot stand. If we all stay united in love, regardless of color and all that, I don't, I don't know. I'm kind of going off on a rant here a little bit, but listen, love's the only way. It really is. Just remember, it's not of love, it's not of God. And back to some things. Some things are better left unsaid. I hope, Paul, that wasn't one of them, but I figured I just want everybody to know in a short period of time what I'm really about, because I have been somehow, because of appearance, even though I have a wife who's half Arab, I have Portuguese grandchildren, Hispanic grandchildren. I mean, people like to pigeonhole me because I have a We the People tattoo, like I'm the poster boy for the right-wing Republican Party. I don't affiliate with any of that shit anymore. I follow Pastor George Carlin. I believe this country was bought and paid for a long time ago. But I love the people of this country, and I love what we stand for together.
Yeah, well, that's a great story, and of course, I love the song, and the video is really good as well. And we'll be watching that in just a moment. But Michael Winwood, thank you so much for being on the show. Come back anytime if you want to plug something new. Maybe we'll have
For
you back
sure.
on sometime.
Very nice meeting you, Paul. I look forward to talking to you again.
Okay, and here
All right.
it is, Better Things Left Unsaid, and it starts.
White sheet blowing on the wind. I don't think she'll be back here again. Just like it was before the war. Money's gone, clothes are on the floor. Time is a monster, yes it's true. And what it didn't need of me, I know is true in none of you. And the one thing worse than being left for dead. Shh. Some things are better left unsaid. Some things are better left unsaid. So round and round and round and round we go. Where this stops, God himself don't know. And your picture's falling half out of the frame. My gun is gone, I think it's gone away. Time is a monster, yes it's true. And what it didn't need of me by now is chewing on of you. And the one thing worse than being left for dead. Some things are better left unsaid. Some things are better left unsaid. Time is a monster, yes, it's true. And what it didn't need of me, I know is chewing on of you. And the one thing that keeps going through my head, some things are better left unsaid. Some things are better left unsaid. Some things are better left unsaid. Some